Hello, everybody. It's Linh Nguyen and Fernando Lavastida here with another episode of Linh Talks Tech. And Linh, I think today we wanted to talk about your upcoming webinar. I think this is really going to be a very interesting one. SAP Upgrades and Migration in the Dark. Let IT-Conductor light the way with SUMMon. So you're actually going to be introducing a new product or a new service and a new approach to doing SAP upgrades and migrations. But before we get into the product, I want to know, you were expressing some frustration the other day about working in the trenches on some migrations and some upgrades, which is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what other people out there are experiencing in terms of problems that they're suffering with SAP. So I was wondering if you could tell me about these, SAP administrators around the world are experiencing and what prompted this new product.
Yeah, great. This is a topic that's comes around not so often, but when it does, it's a major pain. When I mean it doesn't mean come around often, because nobody spends forever upgrading, right? They upgrade and they're like, oh, happy, everything's new. And then they go on with the business. But then again, you are constantly asked by the business to, especially today, to keep things up to date, to get new functionalities, to add on, new business functionalities and features. So then you find yourself, oh, I thought I only go through, major cycle upgrade every 3 to 5 years. And now almost every year I have some, minor upgrades to do. Well, that's what we call lifecycle management. Right? As I mentioned before, there is like for every, let's say an SAP upgrade or migration to cloud, might be a year. And there's like 7 years of like life cycle management, right? Just like patching and updating. So for the technical folks in the audience, the SAP upgrade life cycle is quite a busy and filled with like pothole type scenario. What starts out as maybe the management saying, hey, we need to be on this latest release of XYZ. And, I just went to SAP conference and I came back and look at all these features. I need that. I want that, right? When we get to the technical team, they start planning the upgrade. And with SAP, is whether you are just maintaining status quo and being up to date on patches on your current SAP release, or you are going to upgrade it and migrate to the latest S/4HANA and RISE to benefit from SAP Joule. Just this week, I was at the SAP Innovation, the App Innovation Center in Palo Alto with AWS, and we were talking about business AI, right? How does the business, requirements come down and how does that, what kind of application that SAP AI is offering in terms of to the business community. So they have this thing called SAP Joule. And there's all these use cases. Last year, I think I went to something similar. There was like 100 use cases. And now they got 300 plus use cases. Everything from, automatically taking care of like finance, accounts payable inbox, where there's literally the team gets drowned in hundreds of inquiries a day about where my invoice, when I gotta get paid, and something like that typically takes somebody time to process is now being processed by Gen AI and SAP Joule, and automatically reading all these in different languages. By the way, it's a good case study where one of the company, everybody knows Cirque du Soleil, right? Even if you haven't seen a live show. I mean, there are literally hundreds of shows around the world, and all the local vendors and languages and, people they use, they have to pay the bills, right? But these guys, they, obviously send the requests to get paid, and where's my payment, blah, blah. Well, think about it. If it's an inbox getting 200 inquiries a day and all like 30 languages across the world, it's quite hard for the customer to keep up with the, the accounts payable teams. As an example, that's a use case. And let's say this use case, I don't know, business manager goes to one of these and come back and say, hey, I want that because I have similar thing. And then the technical team goes, well, you can't have that until you at least upgrade our system up to this release. And once you're this release, you can then benefit from connecting to Joule and, maybe connecting to SAP, business technology platform, BTPs, and you can have this. So modernization requires constantly upgrading, patching. And the tool that SAP has, especially when you're running SAP application, has been for years called the Software Update Manager. And every technical basis guy, anyone who's doing, upgrades, know this tool well. It's called SUM, right? SUM, Software Update Manager. love it or hate it, it's a necessary evil if you want to upgrade a patch. Even if you want to add on a third party, let's say you're an industry for, a secure defense industry, and you need maybe a Palantir application to run on top of your SAP to do some kind of security-based cybersecurity thing. Well, that's an add-on. An add-on, you have to use Software Update Manager to add it to the system. So there are many reasons for doing this. Could be just patching, could be adding on, could be updating, could be migrating. So, projects that I've been advising on has 2 to 3 years life cycle of upgrading to RISE and getting the modern SAP finance system all the way to S4 and manufacturing, logistics, and all these things. But the tool itself is needed, but the way it's run is horrible because there's literally thousands, depending on your roadmap. You pick the roadmap. I want to go from here to here. And then it's gives you this config file where you go in and we call up the stack XML file. It basically says for this roadmap, we know where you're coming from. We know where you're going to. This is all the software you need, all the components you need to update. And then there's thousands of steps of phases, if you will, in the software. Like, phase 1 to imagine phase 1 to phase 4,000, where it goes through and does this checking, configuring, getting your inputs, and then running more stuff. So back and forth. It's not unusual if you haven't done an update like this for, let's say, 3 to 5 years, like most customers haven't.
Yeah.
You could be spending in a single upgrade anywhere from 3 weeks to a couple months doing one test upgrade. We call it a mock upgrade, right? You take a copy of some system, you run it through just to find out how much effort, what kind of errors it is. And it has visibility all the way through development team, because there'll be things that they will spit out that says, hey, your dev team has modified all these objects. I need you need to decide what you do with it. Otherwise, we're going to trash it. Your functional team says, hey, my business process in the new cloud platform for S4 is like this. Like I do, invoice processing like this. On your own system, you've customized it. It works like this. Now they have to remap all of these business processes. And then at the end of that, let's say running SAP for 10 years, you've got a huge database, 10 terabyte worth of business information. All of that's got to get migrated to cloud. And so it gets really complicated really fast. A lot of phases that could fail for no reason. Like you say, hey, I just ran a test and then I run again and it failed. And it fell in a different spot. So the person who's driving this, the way SAP designed it, it's called like the software update manager title, admin, right? You only have one guy with one admin, and he can only log in once. If somebody else on the team wants to look at it, they have to log in with the same account to have the control. And then once they do that, they kick off the other guy. So imagine this thing runs for weeks, and can you bog down that person 24/7? Stop somewhere in the middle of the night while he's sleeping? Who's going to watch this thing? Because when it errors out in the weirdest time of the day or night, you may be losing hours. So if you're on a team where you're talking about
of downtime, right?
System integrators, managed service providers who are doing the upgrade on behalf of the customer, because honestly, the customers don't do it often enough to have the expertise. So they bring in the expertise to do the upgrade. And even if the in-house guy, maybe there's two guys, but you need a collaboration to do this. Because right now, if a single guy is driving it and there's an error middle of the night, he's catching some sleep, he wakes up in the morning, he's like, oh, error. Okay, well, there's lost 8 hours. He's got to go troubleshoot. He's got to gather some logs, snapshot some things, go read out some knowledge base, and then come back and fix it, and then resume the tool, right? Well, imagine if you're doing this and you're doing it, let's say 3 or 4 weeks in a row. Let's see how burnout you are. And then not only that, you're constantly, the project management office is like, hey, we needed the system like, you said 3 weeks, now it's like 4 weeks. They're always asking, where are we? How many percentage? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? How many percentage? What phase are we in? And you're saying, hey, I got 4,000 phases. I'm busy doing the technical work, and you want me to spend time, kind of running project updates and sending out like what phase I'm in, how much more time do I have? So there's a problem with the PMO getting status And I don't blame them. They need status because, it's otherwise it's a black box for weeks, and who knows how long it's going to take before they can schedule developers or functional people to go in and test the system. So there's a problem I see from project management. They typically give it to the technical guy, and they assume technical guy know what he's doing. And he says 3 weeks, I say 3 weeks. But in between, they're trying to get updates, daily state, and the technical guys, well, I'm getting this error, and I don't know, it's going to be another 2 days, blah, blah, blah. And you slip to, now think about that. It could be 3 weeks, could be 6 weeks, could be 9 weeks. But in these thousands of steps, the way SAP does it is like, you don't know, even if I run it one time successfully through after 3 weeks, there's literally thousands of logs in there. Every step has a log, right?
Yeah.
And I want to know, well, you know what? I'm going to run it again, but this time on a different system. I need some estimate how long it's going to take on that one. Well, you have no idea if you can't go back and say, my last run, I got all the times for all the phases in a nice structured way. I can just like within a minute, click, 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 find and say, hey, that ran 3 hours last time. And here's the log. So, compare and give them some decent estimates. So I see from a project management, because I'm in the trench doing the technical upgrade, but because I am also the person advising the customer on a project and saying, hey, you need to look out for these major phases where you need to have developers. You need major phase where you have business subject matter experts to do validation testing. You need major phase where you need to invoke, let's say SAP, the RISE folks, so that they can actually take ownership of the system to do the operation. Well, you can't tell any of them anything if you kind of do it in the dark, where you have this giant thing and you have no idea where you are, you're 20%, 30% or whatever, and you don't have a way to easily say report out when there's an error. Let's say, I can automatically set up an alert. Now, SAP provided I would say, very, very rudimentary notification tool built into the software update manager. I hate it. It's like you have a tool that is a commercial to do an upgrade, yet you bolt on something outside just to notify when there's an error or something. And that tool sometimes break. Like recently, I did an upgrade, and everything's fine. My inbox is clean. I don't have any issues. I need to get some sleep. Well, it died. It never actually notified me that this thing had an error and stopped like 8 hours ago. And I'm like, what? So then, it's industrial to think that you create an enterprise tool, and then even the notification for basic things like an error you expect to work doesn't work. And when it does work, it sends you very like rudimentary thing. So think about it, 1,000 different phases, maybe between 5 different teams, different people interested in different things, and say, hey, I want to know when you get to that phase. I want to know when that, I need to know when you get to that phase and send me the log for that or something. Or, you need to be able to update project management every day. What are the issues today? What are some of the stoppages? What was the error and how do I solve it? And, what is the next checkpoint? All of this today is just sitting with that SAP technical basis guy doing an upgrade. And if he got too tired, he's not capturing notes or whatever, then it just goes on. And then at the end of the upgrade, SAP goes, hey, why don't you upload this log to SAP for analysis? Oh, but by that time the upgrade is done, what happened is it runs this kind of a web server, if you will, where it's like spewing logs to it. But after you upgrade, you're done. It actually shuts it down and you don't have access to these logs interactively anymore. It's sitting in a file system. It's not very friendly to share with, like, let's say your lesson learned process of people going in there and say, hey, I need to look at this phase and see how long it ran, what kind of errors it had. Well, all of that now is sitting in some guy's zip file. Right. And then the project team goes, I need analysis for major phase, how long it took and where we can optimize, right? You can upload it, but it's not very easy, not very user friendly, because like I say, if I run it again, I want kind of like log easily available, offline, online, whatever I can compare to and say, that phase was like 3 hours last time. So I know that's a break point for me to, go do something else and then have automatically notification if it fails. And if it fails, I need to be able to capture some screenshots and, drag in something, put in some comment, like a ticket, right?
Yeah, like a ticket.
Right now, most projects, if they even sophisticated to run like a Jira or some kind of service desk where they put in a project, that is not interactive. Let's say this phase runs for 3 days. It has one line item with maybe 2 subline items, and you're buried in there. One of the steps is 50 steps long, 50 activities long. Well, there's no real-time tracking, right? You just got this huge giant thing. And then, whenever you have time, you go and then you go, still running, or something like that. It's not the way we should be running these enterprise projects. We should have visibility, real time, by more than just the engineer doing it, with a team shared responsibility and have visibility for audit. So at the end, I'd say, hey, give me the logs for the entire upgrade. Give me the logs for that particular phase that failed. Give me a readout of like the 100 steps that I had to stop and do something. And I put in some screenshots. Like, give me that just as for the way we do with AI, right? Hey, take my meeting notes and summarize it for me. We can do this. So this is where the idea came from, a problem that I see, not only for myself, because, I'm in the trenches also, but they came back and said, hey, why don't we improve this? Why don't we bring it into the full focus of visibility, observability, the light and the darkness, have multiple eyes so you don't burn out the guy doing the upgrade. You may have a team.
Right.
They see a portal, a console. They can access this log without having to ask this guy, hey, can I knock you off to see it? And blah, blah, blah. And also right now, it's a lot of it is you have to be inside of the system network to do that. What if you have a global team and you want to run an upgrade where there's 3 time zones, 8 hours each? People get decent sleep. You hand over to the next, follow the sun. You want to have a portal that everybody can get on there, share responsibility, watch this thing, document it, have a simple process where I'm not
have a handoff, right?
Yeah, and I'm not going off to like a Word document. It's just me. The other problem is most upgrade, people are listening to this who do upgrade, by the time you're done and everybody wants you to document it, you've got a 500-page Word document with screenshots and it's absolutely a nightmare to maintain, and it's useless because to look for something in there, you have to like scan through and find stuff, right? Even if I go through and say, how long did that phase run? I have to go to this document now. So Word even have a problem opening a 500-page documents with screenshots, let alone go search for a particular name of a phase and find out the name of it and find out the time of it. You should be able to do this online interactively. Have a project structure. Every step has a way for you to track start time, end time, have a way for you to annotate, put in comments, attach screenshots. Even, there's a wiki from the vendor to solve this. Put it in there, all that stuff. And at the end, just say, give me an entire exception list, right, of what happened. And then give me a timeline of exactly an analysis of all the big steps. So we building this. We actually already built the prototype.
Mm-hmm.
Because of my inputs with my pain points. So if my pain points echo with the community out there, and I'm saying there's hundreds of thousands of SAP installations, every one of them has to do upgrades, and let's say 10% of them have to migrate. There's 30,000 customers have to migrate. Use this tool even for migration from on-prem to RISE. Use this tool to upgrade on-prem, and with us, we can actually say we can read what some reads. We can have more intelligent notifications. We can have more interactive ways to interact with it. Like an example I gave a while ago where there was like a bad component that wasn't, maybe it stopped the upgrade, right? Because I had this, something like that. Now you can search for a previous upgrade and say, hey, how much time did it cost me? And do some analysis, right? And avoid that. And if you use the proper assessment, like we say, hey, look for a component list and identify the ones we know are culprits, right? If it exists, then you got to have a plan ahead of time to deal with it. So more intelligently, the thing should be planned. And when it's running, where you're in this long journey, you got to have visibility at every step, right? You have a way to centralize the project side of things and also the documentation for audit purposes and the ability to report to management, because you don't want guys keep knocking on you and I spend another 15 minutes trying to type up an email and pasting all these things again, go back to my document, go find this stuff. Why just go to the phase and say, hey, give me the splurt for this phase and I'll just send that one. And doing this, like I say, if you're doing this upgrade, you want a team that can do around the clock, maybe 3 different time zones or 2 or whatever, have a way to hand off using the tool as opposed to just like being in the dark and not really, I'd say that this is a single burnout number. We talked about the brain drain, right?
Yeah.
If people get slapped, say, you have to do this upgrade. And he's like in the trenches, weeks on in weeks out, working weekends and doing this to get to some timeline. You're going to burn them out. They're going to walk the door. You get better tools so they can have, hey, I can get some help. I can get somebody to watch this thing. All right. If something happens, I get notified. I can get I don't have to be there staring at the screen all the time. And when I step away, it breaks, and then I don't get notifications because the notification tool is unreliable.
Wow.
So these are pain points, and it doesn't sound like, when you say it's just a tool to help this, it sounds small. Context of a project. What happens is if you have a project, let's just say 30 people from a system integrator, or maybe 10 developers, 10 business subject matter experts, they have project management team, and they're waiting to get onto this new version, right? So they have to schedule the work. They're like, hey, we need these people to start this date. We promise them we'll have a system at this date to do the upgrade, to start testing, to hammer out blueprints for business process. Well, if you're missing that because the guy that you're relying on to do the upgrade is just getting burned out trying to like manage this beast, it's not a good thing. So for us, it's about giving time back, the efficiency to manage these things, have observability. You don't know what you don't see, and if you don't see and you're just flying in the blind, right? You're just counting on the luck. Yeah, sometimes you run something 10 times and it looks so great, and then that one time that breaks, and then you took it for granted and you didn't get proper notification and timely manner to address it. You burn like maybe 12 hours, and then the other people had to like pay people sit around and just twiddle their thumb because there's no system. So it's even more important now that we coordinate this across vendors. It's not about the customer running their own system anymore. There's a lot of people involved because doing an SAP upgrade, especially with like S4 RISE to get into the next wave of Joule AI, and there's a lot of visibility, and other third-party vendors. It could be your hosting managed service provider, could be your system integrator. You could be a third-party port on that's waiting to install some component to enable you to send data to your AI model or whatever. Any one of these could get delayed, and cost just goes exponential. Then they complain about why does SAP projects run so expensive, over budget, right, and over time, and you don't have enough subject matter experts to work on it. Because if they run overtime, of course, there's not enough people. They bog down doing less projects, right?
Yeah.
So if you can do it more efficiently, I'd say my word is like, regardless whether you want to go to cloud or not, whatever, you're gonna have to upgrade your system, maintain it. Why not do it intelligently? Have a way to have visibility into it. And again, we start this because it doesn't exist today. Trust me, if it exists, I would just go and use it, right? So I'm like, hey, there's gotta be something better than this vendor tool that just take what they have and just bend over.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to make a comment on this. It seems like as though this is a huge bottleneck for larger corporations to start getting into the AI game. Like, so, Joule AI seems like as though it's a very valuable, upgrade to SAP, so that you can get your SAP data working with AI. But if it's going to take, if it's going to take 2 or 3 times longer to migrate because of all these issues, and then the cost goes up, and it's not just all the IT cost and the IT time, but it's also the business critical stuff,
Yeah.
which I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Lynn, but I think that this could hamper the competitiveness of the companies who want to get started with Joule AI ASAP and kind of beat their competitors, if you will, or,
Yeah,
take
I
advantage of.
definitely. Everybody wants to modernize the system, get the data models ready, and the problem with moving too slow. Let's say if I shrink a project that's 2 year down to 18 months, right? I save 6 months. In business term, that's a lot, right? In resource term, even a lot more. Like, so a lot of people are not committing to projects because they just see the budget of how much people and time they need to put in there. And they just have a fear of commitment because it is a big item, right? But when I talk about this tool to help basically provide insights to the SAP upgrade manager, it's not to replace it, because you can't replace it. It's a vendor tool, right? The vendor says to upgrade, you need to use this tool. But that doesn't mean you sit with your hands tied behind your back and not have a better way to manage it, right? We know there's Microsoft projects. We know there are Excel spreadsheets. Why do the people go to, better like Monday.com or Trello, whatever, right? Or Jira? Because there's a better way to do it. There's a smarter way to do it, a more efficient way to do it. And one of the other things I want to talk about is like, well, you're upgrading. There's some tool does look into the process of upgrading, but it has no visibility into, as an example, one of the pain point, and this is actually a real thing. Remember, if you're migrating, you are taking something from a source and you're sending it to some target, right? That's kind of how it works. Well, if it's going to impact downtime, you want to go as fast as you can, right? So to go as fast as you can, there is a limit of what resource you have available on your source system and what limit you have available on your target system, right? If it can only run X amount because you're running some of the process during the business uptime, you can't suck all the juice out of the source system. You can't just take the entire system and say full throttle, 100% CPU, because then business will fail, right? They will complain like, oh man, I'm not able to post order. So you have to be extremely careful when you run this type of upgrade that you are impacting. Maybe not in the non-production system because, you maybe you're doing a copy of the system or less important, but think about the end state. The end state is to upgrade production. So work backward and production system being the main, kind of bread and butter. What if the manager asks you, what is the impact of you doing this upgrade on my business? Because a lot of the tool now is advanced enough to say, I can do a lot of things during uptime so that I can minimize the amount of downtime for your business. But to move things to uptime means that I'm going to compete with resources for customer doing real business process, right? Well, what I'm saying is that while you're running this tool, it doesn't care. It doesn't know how busy your source system is. And it's up to you to go and make sure, like, if I have a throttle and I say, do I 5 speed? Do I go like 3? Do I go to 4? Do I go to 5? And do I throttle back? Well, what if you are not able to have visibility, or maybe you do, but you have to log into like 3 or 4 different things. I got to log on somewhere to look at my source system, how busy it is in terms of people on there, process is running, and how much capacity do I have. At the same time, I have to log on to the target and say, well, how busy system can I drive as fast as I can between here and here? You need all of this visibility, which some does not do. It just says, I have an upgrade. I'm going to run this. I'm dumb. You have to give me all the inputs, how many parallel threads you want to run. And I'm not going to tell you I'm too busy. I'm just going to run it. And if it fails because you don't have visibility on the source, how busy it is, it's just going to fail. It's fail. And then you're, oh man, I just wasted 5 hours doing this thing when I didn't check my resource consumption. There's a lot more outside of the SUMMon that we're creating. The SUMMon is one thing to look into the upgrade and migration, but there is a whole landscape that we do really well. Like we say, hey, give me some metrics on the source system, how busy it is, because we have insights already into the entire SAP stack. Same thing on the target. While you are migrating, you don't have access to a running system, right? Because it's an empty shell and you're trying to put things there. But you still need visibility into that to tell you how fast should I go? Because if I go too fast, it might fail and my job's going to die. Now, the problem with that is most of these projects, they wait for the system to be fully installed, upgraded, migrate before they have a monitoring on it, right?
Right.
Because they say, well, there's nothing there, right? So during an upgrade, you're in this limbo. It's an important part, but you have no tool. You don't know how. SAP RISE has no metric for you. When you're upgrading, you have no visibility into the database. You get a connection. You don't have tool to monitor it. You don't have the traditional, insights and visibility, observability. So you're just blindly pumping data, right? Imagine I'm pumping data. I have no idea if this thing can take it anymore. Is it running full throttle? Or is it like only running 10%? So when we talk about end-to-end visibility for migration, it has to say, how's my source? What's my update process doing? And then what's my target doing? So I can adjust end to end fully and say, I'm in this race. Like if you're in a Daytona type race, you're not going to just like worry about first 5 laps. You got to finish it, right? All those 24-hour races, you have to plan to finish it through the nights, right? Who's going to drive? How fast they're going to drive? When they're going to change tires, right? So we talk about this end to end piece, not just a tiny piece of this puzzle.
Yeah, no, yeah. And the resource thing is such a huge issue. And I'm just wondering, does that also is kind of being like unaware of the resources that are available, or the unaware of load of the network by business users?
It doesn't see anything. It just sees itself running, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it has this, I call it kind of very like, Mickey Mouse. It has this view where if you run the sum, there's like, they call it the sum tool, where you go in there and you can have like some visibility into the target database like SAP HANA or something. And it shows you CPU and memory and this, but it's not even updated properly. I literally did an upgrade recently, and the last metric that shows up was like 3 days ago. I'm like, what happened? Because you're getting something that some guy thought was a good idea to throw in there, and it's just half implemented. It's not useful at all. It's not pulling anything. For me, I'd say I need a full cockpit of my target. I got to see, all of its systems. I got to see my CPU, my memory, my IO, my network, my disk utilization, and all the, whatever I want. I should be able to see like a nice dashboard of my target. Same thing with the source. Even more with the source, because I have real users on the system. I want to see everything that is like what makes this thing tick. And so I can dial that throttle just exactly right to get the optimal migration. None of that happens. So as an example, another pain point is in a migration, moving data is important to move fast. You have to have network, latency low, high throughput, right? Just like you downloading, I don't know, there's a movie to watch, and it's like, well, you can't pile on more, you're going to kill it. And then the manager's asking you, why is it so slow? Why am I not getting you estimated completion, right? Well, I estimated it based on these requirements of the network performing up to this particular standard. Well, maybe they provision it that way, but they never configured that way. I've already helped network teams where they go in and they say, I've given you a nice big bandwidth. Well, network works like this. It's end to end. You can give me a nice big pipe, right? But there's some gunk in the middle or some junk at the bottom, whatever, then you don't get the flow, right? So we have to help them tune the network to get exactly what you need. In fact, one of the things that come up during running some is that it will check and it says, hey, your latency is too high. Okay, all right. So that's a warning that data will be slow when you're migrating. Mm-hmm. But that's a one checkpoint. Now, throughout the migration, you have no visibility how the server is, how the network is, what is my latest ping time, right? I have no idea. So there's a lot of things that we can do to make this thing go faster, more intelligently from a data-driven approach that I think is a huge opportunity to like shine some light. And now the upgrade is just not a technical problem where you just throw to this guy and burn him out anymore. It's more of a project management top-down with dashboards, with visibility. Project managers can see the status if they want to subscribe to getting some information daily, maybe twice a day, getting an automatic report or something. And then afterwards, being able to analyze it and have lesson learned so that you can optimize it before the next run. So all these things, they always talk about nice to have, but nobody's doing anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're going to talk about this in an upcoming webinar on
30th at 7:30 Pacific. We will do a live webinar, and I'll show you, what the solution looks like. Again, it's we are recruiting community inputs, like what's useful for you, what's we're not the type of company that say, oh, you just take what the vendor has and you're done with it because that's all you have. No, we are trying to innovate around these pain points. Even there's some technology limitations, we try to work around it to make sure we provide as much ability to monitor and manage this process more intelligently. So we're gonna put it out to we're gonna recruit, let's say, early adopters who see benefit of doing this, or you don't see benefit and you like sitting there in front of the screen glued to it, doing it manually. Continue doing that. But if you see benefits of scaling this thing and making it more intelligent, we invite you to be part of the audience and then take it for a drive. It's a real simple tool to hook up in terms of being able to see IT-Conductor dashboard as a web dashboard, have visibility into your upgrade, and the setup will be kind of sweet and short. We can get it onboarded. And anyway, but I'll have some, recent upgrades or whatever, even some stuff we've done on the lab, or I'll show how it kind of works, and we'll be able to contrast what you have today versus what we are able to provide in terms of visibility and insights. And to think alone. Now, if you don't have to have a Word document, 200, 300 pages anymore to kind of update and scan through. I don't know how many versions of that when I go through an upgrade, and it's ridiculous. It's so hard to use that. If you just on a dashboard, you can just like pick into a step and insert your notes and comments and paste a doc into whatever, and then at the end get all my annotations in one place, so I know exactly what to look out if I was to give a junior engineer the next upgrade. Hey, here's my notes all on the system. It's all about digitizing the knowledge so that we can reuse for the best purpose, right, possible, not just sitting in some archaic Word document.
Yeah. So you alluded to how long it was going to take, and then you kind of cut off the sentence. But is there, do you want to give us a hint, or do you just want to save it until the webinar for how easy and how quick it is to install SUMMon?
Yeah, well, let's just say minutes, right? So if you have an upgrade running and you're like, hey, I'd love to get this on, we can get our team on a call with you. I'd say within an hour we could have it up and running for you, and it's really simple. We use kind of an engineering approach to this to be as little. Now, of course, it also varies how much data you want, right? For instance, like I said about source information, target information. If you want to connect up more components to make the whole end-to-end journey better from an observability standpoint, that part there is optional, but we can hook up, let's say we want to hook up your source SAP finance ECC system or HR, whatever. We can hook it up to IT-Conductor. If you want to hook up like your target, maybe HANA database or on RISE or whatever, we can hook up, and then those will take extra time. But the core piece, typically SAP runs stuff on a migration server. That migration server runs the tool and it hosts all the resources. We simply will be able to connect to it and we're able to see the data, including logs and things like that, and manage the process. So again, this is just the beginning. We can expand as needed into whatever scenario, right? If I'm doing multiple scenarios, we have tools that we talk about in the past, but I also will mention during our call. It's like, we have things that are going to help you in an SAP upgrade. You're going to be downloading a lot of content. It's not unusual you're downloading like 80 gigabyte of software. You might be downloading, 200 SAP knowledge base notes, correction fixes. All of this stuff today is very manual. You go and you search, you put it, and you download. And if you're doing a team-based approach, we have a team-based SAP download manager where everybody can add whatever stuff in their basket. We are download behind the scene. So imagine this actually came up during COVID. A lot of people work remote. They didn't go to the office, right? Now, if you remote, you VPN in on your laptop. And the way SAP download works is like, if you add something like software, it will add to your download basket, and then you run this little manager on your laptop, and it downloads to your laptop. But then you're working on a server. So now you got to copy all that file over your VPN into the corporate server, right? Let's say it's 20 gig, right? Now you're doing this, but then your coworker is also doing the same thing, right? And there's no deduplication, there's waste of network bandwidth. So we have this thing called team-based download manager that can really help the scenario where we centralize the content on a file server. And doesn't matter who's on your team, 5, 10 people, add to the download basket. We automatically download it behind the scene onto the server, not to your desktop. Because think about security issue too, downloading software to your desktop and then moving that to the work. That's a whole nightmare. And so that's an example of like something.
What's the name of this? What's the name of this product again? The team-based what?
It's a team-based download manager.
Team-based download manager.
Yeah, so that's available. We have that. So in an upgrade, I recommend using that because typically you're downloading all the time, moving stuff around, and then you find out you have duplicates everywhere. So we do things like deduplicate. We say, hey, this is already in somebody's basket. I'm not going to download it twice, right? Just use this copy. Things like that, and then we have obviously the ability to tap into all its level, multiple components of the upgrade, dashboard reports. That's kind of out of the box. Notification, of course, a given thing. But again, the focus is on improving the lifecycle management process, and that starts with the upgrade or the migration or both, right? In some cases, you're upgrading and migrating at the same time. And I think this will be really useful for even if nothing else. If you like your old tool and sit in front of, wouldn't you like to have a web-based portal where you could have all of your logs into after you upgrade, you're done with the upgrade, you want that to be used for analytical purposes or comparison purposes, or answer the question from the manager, hey, how long did that phase took? I'm curious, how can we make it faster? All of that data can be a something that you can use for going forward. Because remember, a project is not like overnight. You might be in this project for a year. You won't remember what happened 3 months ago on some upgrade of a lower system. That knowledge is, once it's captured, digitized online, it's super useful as a reference point, right? So that's what we're preaching, is to be able to digitize all this and have it for current and future use as well.
Okay. Well, this is great. So again, the webinar is going to be on the 30th of July. At 7:30 Pacific, 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern Time. You want to register, go to itconductor.com/events, itconductor.com/events, or you could just go to the itconductor.com website and go to the news and events tab.
Mhm.
And then what is it?
Register.
There's a little events thing. There's a little events thing that comes up when you click on events.
Or
and
just
you click
follow us
there.
on LinkedIn. If you're not already, follow IT Conductor page on LinkedIn. We have all the events kind of posted there as well. So,
Perfect.
but the focus is on you guys doing this hard work in the trenches, because I understand, I empathize. This is why I brought it up as a problem, and had our team kind of brainstorm how we can solve this issue. And this is only the beginning, because I think this is really exciting for us. We've been in SAP for a long time, and innovating things that people just take like, hey, this is just, we can't change it, just, live with it. No, we're not. We're going to disrupt it. We're going to create something that will help you do better. Right?
Yeah. Perfect.
All right.
Well, great. Well, I'll see everybody there on the 30th. And it was good talking to you again, Lynn.
Great. It's always fun.
Yeah. And we'll see each other next time.
All right. Not on the dark side.
Yeah, not on the dark side. Right. On the bright side of the moon this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.